So, good morning, Calvary family and friends who are watching today as a part of our series during this month that I like to call a month where we highlight Black excellence because we have been making Black history as long as there's been Black people on this planet. So, we just highlight Black excellence this month, and I'm excited to speak to one of our hometown heroes, a member of the family personally and spiritually, Sister Patsy Cobb. Patsy, how are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. And I just want to say thank you for the interview and spending
Absolutely.
some time. I appreciate it very much. I was very surprised when I got the invitation.
Well, I mean, I think that you're a hometown hero on a lot of fronts, not only because of what you've done in your life and your career, but as we talk about the history of Santa Monica, you are one, and your family and our families have been, we are a part of that fabric. And so it really is super appropriate to have someone like you to be a part of this type of interview, and I'm so glad that you are. So let me just start here. Tell me just a little bit, or tell us a little bit about where you were born and how your family got to Santa Monica.
Okay. My father came from Texas first, and he had an aunt who was here working. So he came first. And for some reason, they were in Santa Monica. How, why, I don't know. They just
Mhm.
went to Santa Monica. And so I was born in Santa Monica, right over on 20th in Michigan, in a house right there.
Ah. Well, that is a maybe I would say a familiar story of how a number of African American people migrated from the South out west by having one family member come first and kind of set things up, and then others moved along and joined. And maybe it was because of industry or something like that that was
Right.
available.
He was looking
Mhm.
for work. Um, and that was what made him come, I think. And then he brought so many others. We used to nickname him Harriet Tubman because every time he went to Texas, he brought a couple people back.
That's right. The spirit of Harriet Tubman was living in Leroy Jameson as he was bringing the masses from Texas out to sunny Santa Monica. So tell us a little bit about the community that you grew up in, which is very different than what it is today.
Right. It was a small community, and um, a lot of families that shared the same history of someone coming, and then they settled here. So we had a small community. Everybody knew everybody because it was just that small, and we visited each other's homes and celebrated holidays and what have you. Close-knit family.
Hmm. And I know that the church was a big part of that as family became historic members of Phillips Chapel CME right over there on 4th and Bay.
Right, right. My grandmother, my aunts, my parents, all were members there. It was a family church for
Mm.
well over 70 years.
Wow, that's incredible. And I know I'm glad that I've been able to be a part of that family for a little over 30 years, and it's just been an incredible blessing. So let's move on. I want you to tell us a little bit about your career because that is an amazing story that I think everyone should hear.
I went to Santa Monica Schools, Garfield Elementary, one elementary, John Adams Middle School, which was then John Adams Junior High, and the famous Samo High. When I left high school, I started at junior college, Santa Monica College, and I took a break. I got married, I had a child, but I continued to take courses. And I kind of knew I wanted to be a lawyer. When the freeway came through, my parents were very pained at the loss of the house. And I was a teenager, and I learned something called eminent domain meant that they could come and take my father's and parents' house. And it was a very impressionable time for me because my father fought with them, so trying to get the price up. And I kind of tucked away that I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was a teenager and I didn't really follow. I took a break. And then later on, I had a case of discrimination in Santa Monica. At that time, I was married and had a daughter, and we tried to move north of Santa Monica Boulevard on 14th Street, and no, they took the application and told us the place was rented, even though the sign was out front in the yard. They later called us and said it was rented. So we went to West Side Fair Housing and got some volunteers to come and check it out. And they were able to fill out the application, looked at the application and said the apartment is yours. And this was the day after. So I filed a lawsuit in Santa Monica, me and my husband, and that was probably the push that I knew I wanted to go to law school. So I went back to school full time, and Santa Monica finished up my AA, and through a mentor, Dr. Alfred Quinn, he nominated me for a Ford Foundation grant, and that enabled me to go to USC. And I graduated from USC and subsequently went to law school in San Francisco at Hastings. So I tried private practice for a bit, but I got an opportunity to go practice in the Virgin Islands. I worked for Legal Services Corporation. And I stayed about 2.5 years, and then that island was small, small island life. And so I came back and I started out at the state bar prosecuting attorney misconduct cases. And I made a career there. I prosecuted, I helped develop a professional court. The state bar has its own court system. I did some pro tem judging, and I ended up back in the prosecutor's office until I retired, Deputy Chief Trial Counsel.
That's what I'm talking about. You would not, it's important to share these stories, in my opinion, because, we see people that we interact with and who we may have known for years, and we don't realize the contribution that they have made to the world. And so, hearing about the lawsuit that you filed because of housing discrimination, that is still an issue, not only in Santa Monica, but in several cities all over the United States. It's just incredible to hear that, practicing in the Virgin Islands and coming back here and working to hold other attorneys accountable. That's just incredible to me. And I just thank you for sharing that. You are an example. You've been an example in our lives, especially for our son Clarence, who is finishing up law school at Howard, and You've been a mentor for him, and just to watch your career has been incredible. So my last question, and I know there's so much more we could talk about, but this is really about a journey of faith. And so, I would love for you to share a little bit of how you feel that your faith has played a part in your journey.
I really feel like at times it was nothing but my faith that got me over, because there were obstacles that came up, especially in law school. I'll give you an example. The first day of law school, went to orientation, and the dean spoke, and he said, "Look to the right of you, look to the left of you. One of you is not going to make it." And I said, "Oh, no, I know Jesus, and I'm going to pray." And I know people were praying for me and pulling for me, and I leaned on God. He got me over. He got me over.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. When they looked at you, you said, "Don't look at me.
Right,
Me and Jesus, we got this."
right. And I had met a woman, and we sat next to each other, and she was older than me, an African American woman. She was even older than me. And we kind of said, "It's not going to be us." And we became friends, and we saw each other through, and I've maintained that friendship. We would go to her mother's, and her mother would feed us and pray for us and send us back to law school for some more beat up.
Ah, well, I tell you this, I'm glad you made it, and I think the world is a better place. The community is a better place. The city is a better place. Our family is a better place. The church is a better place because of you and your commitment. And so I thank you for taking the time this morning to just share with us. And just as we wrap it up, my final question, I'm sure you probably heard this before. What advice would you leave to either someone who is interested in following your footsteps, or just some advice to encourage someone who might be going through something maybe similar, maybe different, but what words of advice or encouragement would you share?
Set goals and review those goals. If those goals are not working, change the goals. Work hard and keep your eye on what you've said you're going to accomplish, and trust in the Lord and pray and work hard, and it will happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patsy. That just brings forward to me, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding.
That's
In
right.
all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And
That's
he
it.
has truly directed your path. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
with us
you.
this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I thank you for being, I know your historic membership is at Phillips Chapel, but I have claimed you
And
as
I've
a,
claimed you too.
oh, well, then it is already done. It is already done. Thank you, Patsy. I love you, and it was great to talk to you this morning. Thank you for being one of our hometown heroes.